G'day crew, welcome to GOAT Fantasy Podcast. It's the Nick Daicos edition. The GOAT Fantasy Podcast brought to you by checkmyrate.au. Visit the website, it's free to use. Take control of your financial future. I'm your host, Drew Jones, and when we're talking about fantasy players, Nick Daicos comes in right at the top in terms of who is important and who we want in our team. So understandably, when he was a late withdrawal last Thursday, after that corked quad, it was a hammer blow right across the fantasy landscape. And again, we're monitoring and we're sweating on his fitness ahead of gather rounds. Of course, they play Friday night against Fremantle, and so many of us either started with him or moved to him pretty quickly after what was a really hot start to the season. So Daicos trained today in Melbourne, and I've reached out to friends of mine who are still back in Victoria before heading over to Adelaide. So the word is from Daicos, or the word is on Daicos, that he trained, but he didn't shoot the lights out, wasn't moving all that freely, and he's going to have to improve a lot, you would think, between now and Friday night if he's going to get the call-up. Of course, the Pies had a huge amount of faith in their man that he was going to recover really quickly after the corky that he suffered against whoever it was the week before the Lions game, and they gave him right until the warm-up. But he looked terrible, really, as we saw on the broadcast. So a whole another week, 8 days, in fact, to recover. You would think that he's going to make significant progress in that time. An absolute professional, as we know as well. You'd think he'd be moving heaven and earth to make sure that he's right to go. So the expectation is that he'll play. Certainly that's what Fly has said today. They expect him to be right, but what we saw today, wasn't amazing, and what we saw last week, was a very light session which led to a late withdrawal. So we need to just be wary that we may not have Nick Daicos this week. So I guess the big question is, in the event of Daicos missing out and not playing against Fremantle, what's the move for us? So we already know that Tim English is out. In AFL Fantasy, you get 2 trades. You've got to use them. English is one of those. And then if Daicos doesn't play, is it a simple sideways move to another premium, or do you try and hold on to Nick for another week, knowing you've got him for the rest of the season, and he's probably not going to miss 3 weeks with a corked quad? And what are our options? So if you decide you want to trade Nick, here's a few moves you could make. Bailey Smith is 1.2 million, which is roughly the same price as Nick. So it's a sideways move to a guy that's playing West Coast on Sunday. And Baz, amazing first half last week against Hawthorn. The Sam Butler tag just slowed him down a little bit. But apart from opening round, he's had a dynamite season. And he's been one of the best players in fantasy so far this year. In Supercoach, Bailey Smith is 643k. I guess the harder thing here is trading Nick Daicos in Supercoach when you have limited moves. He's going to be a keeper, and he's missing maybe one more week with a quad. I don't think that's the right move. So I'm going to say in Supercoach, you're holding Daicos regardless, but in AFL Fantasy, there's a decision to make if you want to chase points. And it's been such a tough start to the season, so many forced trades. The idea of having to make another one, it sucks, it really hurts, but it's something that needs to be considered. So Bailey Smith at the top of our shopping list at 1.2 million in AFL Fantasy. If you want to go someone who's playing really well and their value hasn't got totally out of hand yet, that's going to be Jack Steele, who looks reinvigorated at Melbourne. And apart from sort of his first 3 quarters against the Saints in round 1, he really has looked back to his old self, taking marks, spreading a bit better, laying tackles, and getting disposals. He's propping up that midfield, playing as the adult in the room, the responsible midfield role. He's been great. So Jack Steele, potentially still on your radar. One that's been put to me is that Finn Callahan has been getting so many handball receives, getting put in such great positions to score for GWS. He's an option. Maybe this is the year where he goes to a bona fide, super premium. He's got Richmond this week. Great matchup. So let's see. Potentially he could be a point of difference. Max Holmes has had a great start to the year, but he fractured his finger in the lead-up to the last game. He still scored okay, but I'm not sure we want to buy into someone who who's got an injury, which is now public. And then I think the other value options, Will Ashcroft and Caleb Sarong, who have been traditionally a little more up and down with their scoring and capable of a lower score. I guess you're getting what you pay for in that sense, where there's a bit of a flaw. Marcus Bontempelli, of course, one of the best players in the game, but you're chasing points there a little bit at someone who's very highly priced. So that's just a sort of a Nick Daicos overview for us. And it presents a really interesting strategic decision if he doesn't play, because do you want to, chase the low break even of Farrow, but you need to replace English and then Daicos is just sitting there? Would you consider going down to Farrow, banking cash for next week, and then it gives you another week to think about, okay, who's the guy that I want to bring in while he's still making cash? And hopefully if Essendon are going to chip the ball around the back line, maybe you're not that far off. Maybe it's only 20 or 30 points if Farrow can put a decent score on the board against Melbourne and they allow Essendon to play that possession game in the back line. So, yeah, there's a few decisions to make there. So clearly Farrow is the must-have rookie of the week, and it would be great to get him into our sides as soon as possible so we can start making a bit more cash, because clearly there's been some rookies and some cash cows which have just fallen through the floor and are not doing anything for us. So it'd be nice to have Farrow on board. Anyway, let's hope that things improve quickly with Daicos. Captain's run will be tomorrow for the Pies if they do one in Adelaide. So perhaps that's something I can chase at some stage during the day. But yeah, let's wait and see. I'm sure Daicos is going to be on the plane regardless. So we're going to have to wait probably right up until A, teams, but B, it might even be when he warms up on the ground on Friday night. So that's something we'll be watching really closely. Fortunately, we'll be there. So perhaps we can offer some perspective and we keep our eye on those teams. All right, Nick Daicos. Let's hope he's fit to play. I don't need another headache, and I'm sure you guys don't want one either. We'll catch up soon on Go Fantasy.